Hey there, friends, and welcome back to another 3-Minute Thoughts. My name is Derek, and for the next 3 minutes, we're going to open up Scripture together and see what God can teach us. This is the podcast where in about 3 minutes, we take one chapter of Scripture, find one big idea, and ask what it means for our lives today. We're going to be in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 today. Paul has been talking about the glory of the new covenant. Now he explains why that glory is so often carried by people who seem anything but, well, glorious. We have this treasure in jars of clay, it says. The treasure is the gospel, the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus. The jar is Paul, or you, or me, ordinary, fragile, easily broken. And Paul says that's exactly the point. God places priceless treasure inside common clay pots to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. Then Paul describes what that looks like in real life. Things like afflicted but not crushed, perplexed but not driven to despair, persecuted but not forsaken, struck down but not destroyed. I mean, you can see he's not pretending that ministry is easy. He's actually saying that weakness has become the stage on which God's strength is displayed. The life of Jesus becomes visible precisely because Paul keeps carrying the death of Jesus. We spend so much energy trying to appear strong. We hide our weaknesses, edit our struggles, and we hope people never see the cracks in our facade. But Paul does the opposite. He points to the very cracks that others would hide, because that's where God's power becomes unmistakable. If the vessel were impressive, we'd admire the vessel. Instead, in this case, we see the treasure. You can trace that pattern throughout Scripture. Gideon's army carried torches inside clay jars until the jars were broken and the light shone out. The widow's ordinary jar of oil became the means of God's extraordinary provision. Even the incarnation follows the pattern. The eternal Son of God entered the weakness and vulnerability of the human flesh of a baby. Okay, here's the key insight. God doesn't need impressive jars. He needs jars that never confuse themselves with the treasure. Think about that for a minute. The jar can never be the treasure. I mean, I guess unless the jar is something super spectacular, but that kind of misses the point too. The point of Scripture is the jar has never been the point. And yet so often we make the jar the point. We talk about things as if, we talk about life as if the things of life are the things that matter most. But in this, Paul is telling us that you're the jar, you're the carrier of something greater. If I open a jar of pickles, the jar is not the point. The jar only becomes the point when it becomes unmanageable, like when you can't open the doggone thing. The point is that what's inside the jar is what matters. God doesn't need impressive jars. He needs jars that never confuse themselves with the treasure. A few questions. Where are you trying to be more impressive as a vessel than what you're actually carrying? That's probably a question that would take a long time for us to wrestle with, so I'll leave you with that one today. Be well, friends.